don't let him find me," she cried. The janitor stayed silent. He did next, changed everything. Welcome to another gripping story that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Before we dive into this incredible tale of courage, secrets, and unexpected heroism, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss our thrilling stories. And please, comment below telling us where in the world you're listening from. We love connecting with our amazing audience. Now, let's begin this unforgettable journey. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead in the 34th floor of the Meridian Corporate Tower, casting eerie shadows across the polished marble hallway. It was past midnight in downtown Chicago, and the building should have been empty except for the minimal security staff. Sarah Chen pressed herself against the cold wall, her designer heels clicking softly as she tried to move silently through the corridor. Her black business suit was wrinkled and torn, her usually perfect hair disheveled, and mascara streaked down her cheeks like dark rivers of fear. She had been hiding for over an hour, moving from office to office, desperately trying to find a way out without being detected. The weight of the USB drive in her jacket pocket felt like it could give her away at any moment. A small device that contained enough evidence to destroy lives and topple an empire built on lies. Behind her, she could hear the distant sound of elevator doors opening and heavy footsteps echoing through the empty corridors like thunder. They were getting closer, their voices carrying through the building like hunting calls in the night. Sarah's heart hammered against her ribcage as she spotted a maintenance door slightly ajar, light spilling from within. Without thinking, she slipped inside the janitor's closet, pulling the door shut just as voices carried down the hallway with increasing urgency. "She's here somewhere," a man's voice growled with cold determination that made her blood freeze. "Check every room, every closet, every possible hiding place. Davidson wants her found tonight, and he wants her alive." Inside the cramped space filled with cleaning supplies, industrial equipment, and the smell of disinfectant, Sarah found herself face to face with a middle-aged Hispanic man in coveralls. Miguel Santos had been cleaning these offices for 15 years, invisible to the executives who worked here, moving through their world like a ghost that no one bothered to acknowledge. He was holding a mop, frozen in complete surprise at finding someone in his workspace at this impossibly late hour. "Please," Sarah whispered, tears streaming down her face, her voice barely audible above the hum of the building's ventilation system. "Please don't let him find me." Her voice cracked with desperation and raw terror that couldn't be faked. Miguel stared at her, recognizing the genuine fear in her eyes. The same look his sister Carmen had worn years ago when she was running from her abusive husband who had threatened to kill her if she ever tried to leave. Miguel's weathered hands gripped the mop handle tighter as he studied the woman before him, taking in every detail of her obvious distress. In his 53 years of life, he had learned to mind his own business, especially in a world where people like him were easily replaceable and quickly forgotten by those in power. But something about Sarah's raw fear struck a deep chord within him, awakening memories he had tried to bury for years. The footsteps in the hallway grew louder and more urgent, accompanied by the voices of at least 3 men conducting what sounded like a systematic search of the entire floor. "Mr. Davidson won't be happy if we don't find her before dawn," one voice said with barely contained menace. "She knows too much about the operation, and she has evidence that could destroy everything we've built." Sarah's eyes widened in absolute terror at the mention of Davidson, her boss, Thomas Davidson, CEO of Meridian Corp, and the man she had trusted and worked for loyally for 5 years. The same man who had mentored her career and invited her to family dinners was now hunting her like an animal. Miguel noticed her immediate reaction and realized this wasn't just about a simple workplace dispute or office politics gone wrong. These were dangerous men with serious intentions. And this woman's life was hanging by a thread. For a moment that felt like an eternity, Miguel remained completely silent, wrestling with the life-changing decision that could destroy everything he had worked for. He thought about his daughter Sophia, starting college next year with dreams of becoming a doctor, and his wife Maria, who depended on his steady job and health insurance for her diabetes medication and treatments. But then he looked at Sarah again, saw the genuine terror that couldn't possibly be faked, and made his choice. Quietly, He moved past Sarah and locked the closet door from the inside with hands that barely trembled, then gestured urgently for her to hide behind the large industrial cleaning cart loaded with supplies. Just as she crouched down, trying to make herself as small as possible, the voices stopped right outside their door. "Check all the maintenance rooms," someone ordered with unmistakable authority. She could be hiding anywhere in this building. Miguel's heart pounded so loudly he was certain they could hear it through the thin door as he heard the handle rattle violently. He quickly grabbed his headphones, put them on, and began mopping the small floor space with deliberate casualness, pretending to be completely lost in his work and music. The door burst open with sudden, violent force, and two men in expensive suits peered into the cramped space with suspicious, calculating eyes. Behind them stood a third man Miguel recognized with growing dread, Victor Petrov, Davidson's head of security, known throughout the building for his ruthless methods, Eastern European accent, and rumored connections to organized crime. "You see anything unusual tonight, old man?" the security chief demanded in heavily accented English, shining a powerful flashlight around the small space, the beam cutting through the darkness like a blade searching for secrets. Miguel looked up innocently, removing one earbud with deliberate slowness and confusion. "Pardon? I no speak good English," he said, playing up his accent despite being completely fluent after 3 decades in America. "Just cleaning, senor. Working late shift like always. Very busy building. Much work to do." The men exchanged glances, clearly dismissing him as completely irrelevant to their urgent search. They couldn't see Sarah behind the cart, her body pressed against the cold metal as she held her breath. And Miguel's presence actually made the space seem more secure. After all, who would be stupid enough to hide where the janitor was actively working? After what felt like hours, but was only minutes, they left, their footsteps fading down the corridor as they continued their hunt. Miguel waited a full 10 minutes, counting each second and listening carefully for any sounds in the hallway, before whispering, "They're gone, but not far. We don't have much time." Sarah emerged slowly, shaking uncontrollably from both fear and adrenaline coursing through her system. "Thank you," she breathed, her voice hoarse from trying not to cry out. "I need to get out of this building alive, and I need to get this information to someone who can help." Miguel studied her carefully, seeing something in her eyes that told him this situation was far bigger and more dangerous than he had initially imagined. "Who are you running from? What did you see that has them so desperate to find you?" Sarah hesitated for a long moment, looking into this stranger's kind eyes, then realized she had no choice but to trust this man who had already risked everything for a complete stranger. "I'm Sarah Chen, senior accountant for Meridian Corp. Tonight, I discovered something terrible. Financial records that prove Davidson has been systematically embezzling millions from employee pension funds. He's been working with the Russian mob to launder money through fake construction projects across the city." Miguel's eyes widened as pieces of a puzzle he hadn't known existed suddenly fell into place. He had noticed the expensive renovations that never seemed to finish, the contractors who spoke in languages he didn't recognize, the late-night meetings with men who looked like they didn't belong in a corporate environment. "I copied everything onto this drive," Sarah continued, pulling a small USB from her jacket with trembling hands. "Financial records, emails, bank transfers, payment schedules, everything. But Davidson caught me leaving his office with his private files. His security team has been hunting me through this building ever since, and I know they won't let me leave alive." Miguel realized the true gravity of the situation they were facing. This wasn't just about corporate fraud. This was about organized crime, money laundering, and Sarah's life was genuinely in mortal danger. "We need to call police immediately," he said urgently, reaching for his phone. Sarah shook her head desperately, her eyes filling with fresh tears of frustration. "Davidson has connections everywhere in this city. Half the Chicago PD is in his pocket, taking bribes to look the other way. I tried calling the FBI earlier, but my phone's dead, and they've probably tapped all the building's lines anyway." Miguel thought quickly, his years of observing the building's security routines, maintenance schedules, and guard patterns now becoming absolutely crucial for their survival. "I know a way out," he said with growing confidence. "But first, we need to get you somewhere safe until we can contact the right people." He opened his maintenance locker and pulled out a spare janitor's uniform, complete with cap, identification badge, and clipboard. Put this on quickly. With the cap pulled low and clipboard in hand, you'll look like part of the night cleaning crew. Security guards never really look at us. We're invisible to them. As Sarah changed into the disguise, Miguel explained his carefully thought-out plan. Loading dock on sub-level has service entrance that connects directly to the parking garage across the street. Security cameras in that area have been broken for 2 weeks. I reported it multiple times, but they never fix anything down there because it's not a priority area. While Sarah disguised herself, Miguel used his master key to access the building's main communication room located on the same floor. His brother Carlos had taught him about electronics during their younger years working construction together, and Miguel knew enough to temporarily disable the internal phone lines and security communication system. This gives us maybe 20 minutes before they realize the system is down and start looking for the source of the problem, he explained, working quickly with practiced hands. They moved carefully through the service corridors, Miguel leading the way with the confidence of someone who knew every inch of the building's hidden passages, secret routes, and emergency exits. Sarah stayed close behind, amazed at how this quiet, unassuming man had transformed from innocent bystander to determined protector in a matter of minutes. "Why are you helping me?" Sarah whispered as they descended the service stairwell, her voice echoing softly in the narrow space. "You don't even know me. And you're risking everything." Miguel paused on the landing, his weathered face reflecting years of hard work and difficult decisions. He remembered his sister Carmen's bruised face years ago when no one in their neighborhood would help her escape her violent husband. How she had begged for help and been turned away by people who were too afraid to get involved. "Because everyone deserves a chance to do what's right," he said simply, his voice heavy with old pain and hard-earned wisdom. "And because some fights are worth the risk, even when you're scared." They reached the sub-level without incident, but as they approached the loading dock, they heard voices echoing from the main corridor. Davidson's men had clearly expanded their search to include the entire building, checking every floor systematically. There, Miguel pointed to a narrow maintenance tunnel that connected to the adjacent office building through an underground passage. Emergency exit. It leads to the building next door, and from there you can access the street. But from that point, you're completely on your own. Sarah grabbed his arm desperately, her eyes pleading, "Come with me. If they find out you helped me, they'll kill you without hesitation. These aren't ordinary criminals." Miguel shook his head firmly, though his eyes showed the fear he was trying to hide. "I have a family to protect, and they need me here. But you have evidence that can stop these criminals and save thousands of people's retirement money. You must survive to use it." Sarah emerged from the tunnel into the cold Chicago night, free but utterly alone in the empty streets. Using a payphone outside a 24-hour diner, she contacted her trusted friend journalist Rebecca Martinez at the Chicago Tribune, who immediately connected her with FBI agent Rachel Morrison, known throughout the city for her relentless investigations into organized crime and corruption. Within 6 hours, federal agents raided Meridian Corp headquarters, finding exactly the evidence Sarah had described in meticulous detail. The USB drive contained irrefutable proof of the massive embezzlement scheme and extensive money laundering operation involving multiple criminal organizations. Davidson and 12 associates were arrested, including several corrupt police officers who had been taking bribes for years. The investigation ultimately uncovered over $40 million in stolen pension funds and led to the dismantling of a criminal network that stretched across 3 states. Meanwhile, Miguel returned to work as if nothing had happened, maintaining his routine and keeping his secret. When FBI agents interviewed him during their investigation, he claimed to know nothing about any woman in the building that night, sticking to his story with quiet determination. The surveillance footage from the maintenance areas had mysteriously malfunctioned during the crucial hours, and there was no proof he had been involved in any way. 3 months later, Sarah visited Miguel at the building where he still worked. Davidson's company had been dissolved completely, and new, ethical management had taken over the property. "You saved my life and helped save the retirement funds of 3,000 employees," she told him gratefully, her eyes bright with unshed tears of gratitude. Miguel smiled quietly, his weathered hands folded in front of him. "You did the hard part. You stood up for what was right when it mattered most, even when you were terrified." Sarah had started a new job with the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit, using her experience and knowledge to help investigate corporate fraud cases across the country. She handed Miguel an envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a check for $50,000, part of the substantial whistleblower reward she had received from the government. For Sophia's college education, she said softly, knowing about his daughter's dreams of becoming a doctor. Miguel's eyes filled with tears as he realized his daughter's future was now secure. Sometimes, he had learned through this experience, doing the right thing doesn't go unnoticed by the universe. Sometimes, the smallest acts of courage and kindness can change everything and create ripples that extend far beyond what we can imagine. In the towering office buildings of Chicago, amid the corporate corruption and organized crime, two ordinary people had proven that heroism doesn't always come from those with power and wealth. Sometimes it comes from those who simply choose to act with compassion when action is needed most.